Okay, shalom, everyone. So, I want to read an article regarding the Hebrew Caste that was a group of priests among the Cushites. We know that Abraham had a lineage connection with the Hamites. Shoot, I want to see that. So, what I want to do is read an article, and the title of the article is "The Hebrew Were a Caste," and this is written by an biblical anthropologist by the name of Alice C. Lindsay, and she wrote this article May 11, 2022. So it says the article, I was trying to show the article in place of one of the photos here, but it's just the writing is so small. Can no one probably read that off a phone, iPhone, unless they enlarged it, I guess. But I'm going to go ahead and try it this way. It says, by Dr. Alice C. Lindsay. She is an anthropologist, biblical anthropologist. She also has a book called The First Lords of the Earth, which was Cushite. She's going to explain it in her book, an anthropological study. So it's the history, anthropology, biblical studies. I purchased the book. I think this is her first book. So I'm going through it. Some interesting information in here based on archaeology, linguistic, migration, DNA, migrations, and so forth. So, anyways, let's start with the article. It says the Smith in Niger, and this is a group of people. They were Caste, called Caste. It says this Smith in Niger performing. This is a man performing a dance. I don't have it on the screen, but I'm just trying to explain what I'm reading about. It says this Smith in Niger performs a mock attack with bellow on the house of a man who attempt to do metalwork, the threatening, thus threatening the metalwork job security. Nation. This is National Geographic, August 1979, page 289. This is when they did this article, and also I guess filmed this gentleman Niger that's performing this dance. It says, castes are a strict social stratification that made it possible to change one's status in the ancient world. Castes were viewed as having been established by Elohim in the beginning. This belief is expressed in the Bhagavad Gita as 1st century AD, the Hindu text. It says Krishna declares that he has become incarnate and that the four castes was created by me. In the law of Manu, 250 BC, the castes are elaborate as the primeval divine creation. In the Rig Veda, dating up to about 3,000 years ago, four castes are mentioned. The most prestigious are the Brahmins, priestly and an intellectual class, then the Kshatriyas, I guess I'm pronouncing that, ruler and warrior class, then the Vainas, farmers and artisan, and the lowest caste are the Sudra, the untouchable. Many subcastes exist under these, making it difficult to identify one equal or one superior. Today, castes are regarded as negative forms of social segregation and discrimination. However, in the ancient world, or before, the caste system protected each group identity and provided job security. Only potters were allowed to make and sell pots. Only tanners were allowed to skin and sell hides. Only priests were allowed to perform sacred temple duties. The later temple guides reflected the earlier caste organization. It says, why the Hebrews are not named in the table of nation, of course they wouldn't be, because they were not, there were no, there were Hebrews, but it wasn't mentioned until after Isaac and then Jacob and Esau. And Jacob become the progenitor of the Israelites, the Hebrew Israelites. So Abraham had sons, and they all were Hebrews. But there was no Israelite at that time. There were Hebrews, but no Israelite, because we know the Israelite came through Isaac. Isaac had Jacob and Esau, and then Jacob was called to be the father of the nations, the 12 patriarchs, or 12 tribes, or the nation of Israel. It says it has been noted that the Hebrews are not listed among the people names in the Genesis 10. The most obvious explanation is that the Hebrews were not an ethnic group, but rather a caste group. Now, a caste is a a priesthood group, which makes a lot of sense because, wow, before the Most High called Abraham, Abraham was not a, Abraham was a priest. So when he called him, he already knew that he was a priest. And even so, that means that even down the line from Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, and Esau, we knew that the priest line was through actually Isaac and then Jacob and Esau, um, particularly on Jacob, because he was the one that got the blessing. It says the most obvious explanation is that the Hebrews were not an ethnic group, but rather a caste. The Table of Nations does not recognize any caste because it comes from a late source in a time when Jews or Yahudians were widely dispersed among the nations. Now, also, I did a video and I read an article regarding Abraham family migrated from West Africa up through Mesopotamia and India. I did a study on that one. So then it goes on to say, some argue that the Hebrews are descendant of Eber, but that is not the origin of the term. Hebrew. The term comes from the ancient Akkadian words for priests or Hebrew, and the Akkadian term for the caste was Abrutu. These priests were dispersed in the servants of early kingdom builders such as Nimrod the Cushite. Excuse me just a minute, y'all. Nimrod the Cushite. The earlier Hebrew rulers, priest name in the Bibles are listed in Genesis 4 and 5. These are the descendant of Cain and Seth, whose descendant intermarried endogamy, meaning married among their family. This is shown a diagram shows that Lamech, the elder daughter, married her patriarchal cousin Methuselah and named their firstborn son Lamech after her father, according to the cousin bride naming prerogative. Then it shows a diagram that shows Adah equals Lamech, Lamech equals Zillah, and at the bottom it shows Zubah, Jabad, and Tubal-Cain, and Naaman. And it goes on to say the cousin bride Naaman named her firstborn son Lamech after her father. And then Lamech, the younger, belonged to the house of Lamech, the elder. And you can go read that in Genesis 4 through 5, Genesis chapter 4 and Genesis chapter 5. Then it goes on to say the Hebrew ruler priests married two wives. The cousin bride was usually the second wife, and she often named her firstborn son after her father. In the diagram, we find Lamech, the elder, Genesis 4, father of Naaman, and Lamech, the younger, Genesis 5, son of Naaman. So here is in Genesis 4, you have Lamech, the elder, father of Naaman, and then in Genesis 5 chapter, you have Lamech, the younger, the son of Naaman. It says the cousin bride naming prerogative makes it possible to trace descent through the paternal line in the Bible. So I wonder if this is where the Jews get this, that um, you determine a Jew based on your mother's DNA, the maternal line in the Bible. I think that's where they got that from. But anyways, it says the traits of a caste. Anthropological study of the biblical Hebrew indicates that the early Hebrews were a caste, so they were priests, a priest line. Their social structure is characterized by these traits of caste: endogamy, membership by birth, um, heretical status, inherited occupation, appearance such as shaved bodies, distinctive clothing, circumcision, and restraint on eating with persons outside the caste, and restraint on eating with persons outside the caste. That's how, okay, so that's a trace of a caste. And again, I'm going to read it again. This is the trace of a caste. Anthropological study of the biblical Hebrews indicates that the early Hebrews were a caste. The social structure is characterized by these traits of caste: endogamy, membership by birth, heretical status, inherited occupation, appearance such as shaved bodies, distinctive clothing, circumcision, and restraints on eating with persons outside the caste. It says the term, am I in the right place? Oh, the term commensality refers to the positive social interactions that are associated with people eating together. Communal meals encourage a conversation, increase familiarity, and can be led to closer social and marital relations. This is discouraged in the case for various reasons. The ancient Egyptian rules observed restrictions on eating with those regarded as ritual impure, Genesis 43. The practice of not eating with Gentiles continued today among strict Orthodox Jews. The prohibition is meant to discourage social mingling that can lead to marriage outside the caste. Boy, I guess we've been doing that for a long time. We're just all over the place today. And just like with no regards, like they just don't care. Exceptions were made in diplomatic relation. Hebrews rulers feast with non-Hebrew rulers to familiarize treaties and covenants. To formalize treaties and covenant. The feast usually took place at sacred high places and were accompanied by animal sacrifice. Scholars have learned much about ancient treaties through the study of the Mari tablet in Mesopotamia, the pack of Esarhaddon, the Assyrian. I guess that's the king Assyrian. The Amarna text Egyptian and the Egyptian Hittite peace treaty. Some of these pacts are not between equals. Many represent covenant between high kings and vassals. That is the case with the covenant made by God in Genesis 15. It is the Lord God himself who passes between the animal havens with Abraham. Behold his miraculous vision. The Lord reminded Abraham of all his faithfulness to him. I am Yahuwah who brought you from here, from Ur. Genesis 15:7. I am your shield, your reward, and shall be very great. Genesis 15:1. So again, the Most High called Abraham because he was already was from the line of priesthood as a Hebrew, and that's what the Hebrews were. They were caste. So the Most High already knew this. That's why he called him. It says the antiquities of the Hebrew caste. The Hebrew are probably the oldest known caste or priest line. They served as shrines, temples, and mortuary sites at least 1,000 years before the caste system of India emerged. And again, remember, Abraham family Cushites migrated from West Africa through the Nile, through Chad, up through Mesopotamia and India, and beyond that too. It says the Hebrews are probably the oldest known caste. They were served as shrines, temples, and mortuary sites at least 1,000 years before the caste system of India emerged. The Nilotic Saharan Hebrews, had a moiety system. The Horites and Sittite Hebrew maintained separate shrines and temples. They were one caste organized into two ritual groups. Okay. And then it goes on and says that during the pre-dynastic period and the Old Kingdom, 2575 to 2130 BC, the Hebrew priests were organized in a group called Philis. Each phylli served a 2-week duration before returning home. The later organizations of priests in Israel appear to have developed from the phylli system. Then this goes on to say that there are 24 divisions, of course, of priests in Israel. These are listed in First Chronicle 24, chapter 24, 7 through 18. Each course served in rotation twice a year for a duration of 1 week. The priests lived in Jerusalem and throughout the land of Israel when it came time for the division to go up to Jerusalem. The priests left their homes and returned after their terms of service. When not functioning as a priest, these individuals went about their normal routine, tending to the various occupations: stone, mason, miners, tomb builders, carpenter, potters, tin makers, shepherds, goatherds, farmers, and merchant and smith. Sound like us. All my family in the male, all my male family had these kind of occupations when I was growing up. My uncles on my mother and father's side. It says two priestly divisions are of a special interest: the 8th division of Abijah and the 18th division of Hapsi. First Chronicle 24:15. According to Luke 1:39, Abijah lived near Jerusalem in the hill country in a city of Judah. Zacharias, the father of John, the forerunner, belonged to the division of the Abijah. Luke 1, chapter 1, verse 5 through 7. Rabbinic literature claimed that at age 30, John the Mercer was commissioned as a priest to serve in the same division as his father. So I'm going to end it here. I thought it's just an interesting article. So again, you want to go online and probably just go ahead and type in the Hebrew Caste, and it's by Alex C. Lindsay, anthropologist, biblical anthropologist. Alice C. Lindsay, biblical anthropologist, and she has hundreds of articles on that site. So I thought this was an interesting one. And then going back still when it says that when I said that Abraham came from um, their family migrated from West Africa up through Mesopotamia and India. So, anyways, you all, I'm going to go ahead and end it there. I'm using this new kind of like recording system for free because, like, I can record for 20 videos, but I don't know if I'm going to keep them or not. But it does allow me to do up to about 15 to about 20 minutes. I'm almost at my 20 minutes, so I'm going to go ahead and cut it short. Check out her site. Also, check out her book. And her book is called "The First Lords of the Earth," and they were Cushites scattered throughout the earth in anthropologist study, history, anthropology, biblical studies. And this is her first book, Alice C. Lindsay. Okay, you all, I'm going to say shalom and have a blessed